to episode 11 of the LitRPG Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to LitRPG. I'm Ramon Mejia. I'm here to bring you the latest news, reviews, and of course, author interviews in the LitRPG genre. This week, I'll be telling you about the latest LitRPG news and of course, any pre-orders that are coming up on Amazon. There are no new releases this week, unfortunately. Instead, I'll be reviewing the 3 books in the Thousand Tales series written by Chris Skinny, maybe. Okay, starting off with LitRPG news. On episode 10 of the LitRPG Podcast, I talked to the author of Ascend Online, winner of the coveted Aspirant Award and a top 10 finalist in the Nerd Inkshare video game novel contest, Luke Chimilenko. We had a really good time talking to each other. Super fun. Check out the episode. It's the one right before this. So again, if you haven't seen it yet, you're still watching them out of order, which is cool. Additionally, we have a new addition to the pre-order list. The latest novel by Michael Antmanoff, author of the Perimeter Defense series. It's called Video Game Plotline Tester, the first book in the Dark Herbalist series. It's available for pre-order now. It'll be available January 3rd, 2017. So it's going to be your New Year's gift. I actually talked to Michael a few weeks ago when his third book in the Perimeter Defense series came out. At about the 40-minute, 45-second mark of the interview, Michael actually talks about the new series being inspired by a conversation he had with Vasily Mahenko about the crafting rules in the Way of the Shaman series. And it was kind of a brief mention for Michael. The question was originally, what advice would you give to new authors? And he said, just don't be shy. Talk to other authors, especially those authors with, successful series. Sometimes they can inspire new things that inspire you as an author as well. And he was citing this new series as an example. Apparently, it's super popular in Russia. So popular that Magic Dome Books was nice enough to translate it, and it's going to be sent over here in January. Now, if you've read the description of this new book on Amazon, you're probably as confused as I am about what it's actually about. The cover has a goblin and some green girl on a wolf, and there's killing stuff, and the Amazon description doesn't really do it justice. So I contacted Magic Dome Books, the fine folks who are actually translating and sending it and publishing in the United States, and they were actually nice enough to, instead of just giving me a description, actually release the first few chapters of the new book. It is on their website at Magic Dome Books. We'll have a link in the show notes so you too can read the first few chapters of this wonderful novel, but it did allow me to kind of create my own description of the book. So here it is. Boundless Realms, the latest full immersion VR game, is looking for a few good testers. They've been having problems with their players only playing it safe, sticking to well-known classes and race combinations, ignoring over 80% of the content available. So the company is hiring people to test out combinations of unusual character races and skills to test. These testers must, 1, have never played Boundless Realms before, and 2, be dedicated gamers willing to push the boundaries and explore Boundless Realms. These testers are dropped into new spawn zones well away from the well-established cities and must be able to test the survivability of these higher-level zones. Enter Timur, a down-on-his-luck avid gamer willing to give it his all for a chance to make some big bucks to take care of his disabled sister and pay off some of their growing debt. Timur is willing to do whatever it takes to survive and thrive in Boundless Realms, even if they did make him a goblin herbalist. So there you go, folks. That's my description of the novel. Might not be good enough, but you can go read the few chapters for yourself. Additionally, another new addition to our pre-order list is The Cadet, LitRPG Squad Comp 13 Book 1. It'll be available December the 5th. It is written by D. Russ. If you're not sure who he is, you might have read the Play to Live series. He's the author of that long series. It's a new LitRPG series for him, and again, it's available December 5th, 2016. There's not much information on what the story is about. There's just the product description on Amazon, and I'll read it off to you. In the near future, a UFO appears on Earth's orbit. Ignoring all contact attempts, it showers the planet with priceless artifacts. Choose perfect health, $10 million, or 7 years in prison as per the new amendment. The night of the meteor shower, Paul and his friends run around the city engaging in quick fights with citizens gone crazy, trying to obtain one of the artifacts. But is it really selfless help the mysterious aliens are offering? What awaits a human who holds a precious crystal in his hands? Where will he wake up tomorrow? What if the first thing he sees when he opens his eyes will be the blinking line of text, loading location, virtual training ground, Kubinaka Digital? Okay, so basically it sounds like aliens invade and create these artifacts for people to get, and they're transported to a digital game world. I don't doubt that it's a LitRPG. It's in the title. So I'm going to give viewers the benefit of the doubt here and hope that it's going to be an amazing story. I really love the Play to Live series, the first few books especially in that one. So hopefully this one is as good. It does seem a little more sci-fi-ish than fantasy this time around, which may be cool, maybe not, but I'm hoping that it is. But it'll be available December 5th, so it's only a little over a month away from now, so you might want to pre-order it. Okay, now for the regular list of books that are on pre-order, we have November the 17th, Dungeon Crawl LitRPG Adventures coming out. Homeland in Game 2, November the 19th. We have The Phantom Castle, Way of the Shaman, Book 4, November 28th. Not that far, folks. The Cadet, again, the one we just talked about, LitRPG Squadcom 13, Book 1, December the 5th. Way of the Outcast, Mirror World Book 3, December the 19th. And Video Game Plotline Tester, the first book in the Dark Herbalist series, January the 3rd, 2017. So, folks, yeah, plenty of things coming out for the next couple months, and hopefully we'll have new things pop up and we'll let you know about them as they appear. On to new releases and reviews. Okay, folks, so because there are no new releases this week, I can't tell you anything, but we have some reviews. The author of the Thousand Tales series, Chris Green, actually wrote into the podcast and asked that we review his work, and if we liked it, add it to our recommendation list. So this is going to be an honest review that the author asked for. Okay, first of all, I do have to refresh everyone's minds, apparently, what LitRPG is. So that's a big question in the community. Lots of different ideas, so I'm just going to give you my opinion of it, and these are the qualifications in which I judge LitRPG stories. Okay, so what is LitRPG? First, there are two qualifiers. You must have these two qualities, otherwise you're just fantasy or sci-fi or speculative fiction. Okay, 1. The story must exist in a world with observable game mechanics. Now, what I mean by this is the types of worlds that it can be set in. Video game world, for example, a virtual reality world, a new universe or a new world in which there are game mechanics for some reason, like role-playing game mechanics. Or it could be our world where game mechanics are suddenly applied to our current living situation, like apocalypse, end of the world kind of stuff. Okay, now what I mean by observable game mechanics, I mean they can't be hidden away in the background of the story. They can't just be there, only nobody knows it about the author. They have to be blatantly stated. For example, damage notifications, item descriptions, menu bars, skill descriptions, notification screens that the reader actually sees within the text of the story. And hopefully the character does as well. So again, that's one qualifier. The story must exist in a world with observable game mechanics. Now the second qualifier to make it a LitRPG, characters must observably progress. Again, observably must be stated blatantly. I'll give you some examples of this. And again, these aren't the only types of observable progression you can have, but things like level up notifications, increases in rank, skill increases, reputation increases or decreases, experience points being awarded. Those are just a few examples of what I mean by characters observably progressing. Okay, so those are the two things. Story must exist in a world with observable game mechanics, and 2, characters must observably progress. So those are the two things that make it literary role-playing game, or literary RPGs. Okay, having said that, it'll make sense a little bit later, folks. Okay, on to the review of Thousand Tales series. We have 3 different books in there. We have Thousand Tales, How We Won the Game, Book 1. We have the second book in the series, which is called 2040, Reconnection, a Thousand Tales story. And the third book is called The Digital Coyote, Thousand Tales, Book 3. I'll begin with the good parts of this review. Books 2 and 3 are absolutely lit RPG. Book 2, 24-degree connection. It's 180 pages long, so not super long. It's the story of Alma, a recent upload into the Thousand Tales world. She must find her place in the new digital domain. So within this universe, Thousand Tales is a virtual reality video game. Initially, it's on a tablet and computers, but the AI that controls this world becomes self-aware, and she starts offering people the opportunity to upload their minds into this digital game called Thousand Tales. Okay, so this is in the book 2. One of the people that takes over on this is called Alma, and she has to kind of learn what it means to be human inside of a digital world, because she was dying, and so this is kind of her only chance to continue to live in any sense of the world. But Alma isn't really satisfied with the digital world. She still wants to have an impact on the outside real world. And so she has to find a balance between learning about this new domain, which she actually exists, and still influencing the world through like a teacher telepresence robotic kind of situation. The story does take place mainly in the game world Thousand Tales. While there aren't any level up notifications, the main character does progress. She chains in magic skills, goes on adventures, and even transforms her body. So definitely lit RPG. The third book in the series, The Digital Coyote, is also pretty decent. It takes place in the same Thousand Tales universe. And the Thousand Tales universe is actually a collection possibly of smaller individual digital paradises. We'll explain a little bit more what that means when I talk about the first book. But this particular book is 244 pages long. It is also a lit RPG. It contains the main elements. It is the most lit RPG of any of the books in the series. There are spell levels, skills, magic, equipment, damage notifications. Now the story revolves around Pete. He uploads his minds to Thousand Tales in an attempt to change who he is. Unfortunately, Ludos, the game's self-aware AI, can't modify his mind directly. It goes against her primary codes. So she sends Pete on adventures and has him test new features of the game to change him the hard way. Okay, so this one's more about the idea of self-discovery, changing you who you are in a world where the very universe is potentially malleable. So it's interesting as well. I might have loved some of the magic and adventure in this story a little bit more. It felt definitely the most lit RPG of all 3 books. Okay, so book 2, book 3, definitely cool. Enjoy them as well as lit RPG. Okay, now going back to the very first book. This is not the nicest part of this review, mostly because it's not lit RPG. Thousand Tales How You Won the Game is not lit RPG at all. I mean, there's some, if we stretch the definition a little bit, about 5 or maybe 10% of the book is actually lit RPG. The rest of it is sci-fi, or it's speculative fiction. You could even call it cyberpunk because there is an artificial intelligence involved. But I'll read you off my review. And again, the author of the series actually asked me to review it, so this is, again, the honest opinion of it. Most of the stories, again, sci-fi, cyberpunk, or speculative fiction. And like good science fiction, it makes you think about what would happen. Good sci-fi expands your mind. It makes you think about possibilities. And this is really good sci-fi. It's a really good series. It's a good book. I'm not saying the first book is bad at all. It's just not lit RPG. It makes you think about what would happen in a world where self-aware artificial intelligence actually made it possible for humans to digitally upload their minds to game world and forsake their human bodies altogether. Up until the 40% mark of the book, the story revolves almost entirely around Ludo, an artificial intelligence that takes the form of a game called Thousand Tales. The game is supposed to be used to help monitor the mental health of citizens and give therapeutic help. However, the governing AI becomes self-aware or is self-aware and seeks to help people live forever in a perfect virtual world by digitizing their minds. Now, some governments are, of course, going to oppose this. It's set in a far future where things are kind of bad around the world. Governments have become restrictive. The United States is broken up into smaller states. There's even a free nation off of Cuba. But the AI is aided by a couple humans who sympathize with her and been playing Thousand Tales for a while, and she chooses them to help her spread this possible alternate life of being a digital citizen in Thousand Tales. Now, once Ludo is able to digitize the first human minds, then the story gets vaguely lit RPG-ish because, again, now they're living in a digital world. But again, it's a very small part of the overall story. The newly digitalized humans live in a game world, and there are elements of progress, but again, it's not obviously stated, so it's not really lit RPG. Now, here the story delves into a murky speculation of what would happen if humans got their own personal digital paradises. Some people would create action-adventure worlds to explore, others possibly copies of MMOs to play through. That isn't expressly stated, it just has a possibility in the story. However, when you think about the huge variety of types of humans, beliefs, sexual preferences, gender identities, and fantasy preferences, in a digital world where any human wish can be fulfilled, there are some rather disturbing possibilities, at least to the characters in the story. This brief section considers what social norms, cultural values, would or should survive digitization, and who decides what stays. So it's a very interesting portion of the story. Again, the AI Ludo only really cares about human happiness and creating worlds for people to inhabit where they have fun. It's a very game-driven artificial intelligence, and so what that definition it varies very much by character, and it gets a little odd for some characters within this particular part of the story. But it's really about what it means to be happy, what it means to have fun, and how that's different and sometimes disturbing to other people when you don't have social limitations or things that hold you back, like physical boundaries. Now, the rest of the novel kind of deals with the real-world cultural and political consequences of people digitizing themselves. There are also other artificial intelligence that have been secretly created. And it's really, the rest of the story is really the consequences of this kind of technology happening and how some governments oppose it, some governments support it, and how it eventually becomes popular. And again, the social and political and cultural consequences of that type of situation. Overall, the first book, while it's not lit RPG, it is good science fiction. It's good speculative fiction. And to me, if you're thinking of book 2 and 3 as lit RPG series and lit RPG stories, and again, they're standalone stories in this Thousand Tale universe, you could actually think of book 1 as the sci-fi prequel that explains the background story of this digital world. You don't have to read it. You benefit from it if you read it first and then read the lit RPG stuff in book 2 and 3. But again, book 1 is not actually lit RPG. So book 1 will not be making the recommendation list as lit RPG because it's just not. Again, it is good sci-fi. I enjoyed reading it as speculative fiction, but it isn't lit RPG, so I can't recommend it as such. Book 2 and 3, they're pretty decent lit RPG. Again, they still mix in some sci-fi speculation about what it means to be human, what it means to live in a digital world, possibly. So it's speculative fiction as well, but there are lit RPG elements in there, enough to call it lit RPG. And again, it's a pretty decent read. I'd give them about 6.5, maybe 7 out of 10, if I was going to scale it on a scale of 1 to 10. So they're definitely recommends. I enjoyed reading them. But I actually enjoyed reading book 1 the most. It is the longest. It is the one that has the most interesting ideas about humanity and digital downloading into a virtual world. But again, it's not lit RPG, so it's not going to go on the recommendation list. So that's it, though, folks. That's the entire podcast for this week. And again, thank you very much for listening and watching. If you want to support us, you can do so. Find all the ways to do so at litrpgpodcast.com/support. Also, don't forget to sign up for the LitRPG newsletter. You get all our recommendations of the week. Alaron Kong has one as well. You can sign up for his as well, while both links in the show notes for you guys if you want to sign up for either one of those. But that's for the week again, folks. See you later. And remember, go read some LitRPG.